Okay, here again is Bob Foster with a very special guest today. This is another Global Now 10-minute tech talk. We are at the Haywire in Plano, I think it is. It Plano or Frisco?
I
It's
think it's maybe Frisco. I don't.
here outside of Dallas. So it's another great location, good food, good happy hour, everything you ever want out of a restaurant. Great burgers. How
Yeah.
about that? We just finished eating, so we're in the mood for a nap, but we're going to try to work through this tech talk the best we can and see if we can share something that's interesting. So today I'm very fortunate to have from Tennessee drove down yesterday, I think, from Nashville area, Greg Paskal. And Greg is a longtime friend and what I consider another very much a QA expert, very strong around so many things related to QA, software QA, but especially QA teams, organization, really understanding everything from risk mitigation all the way through technology. So I have some questions for you today, Greg. If you want to introduce yourself any more than this, feel free.
We came down yesterday. It's nice to come down to Dallas. We had a little birthday, a couple days to bring my wife down here and visit some friends, and what a great opportunity for us to grab lunch together while I'm here.
I really appreciate that. Working me into your busy schedule. It was a real treat for me. So let me get to it. I know we got just probably 8 minutes to go here, but there's so much buzz right now about AI, and we've even had some guests and had some really good conversations around AI when it relates to QA, how AI is being used with QA, and even so in the QA realm, it seems that AI is the number one topic. And it maybe we're beginning to forget or recognize that there's still a large universe of other important QA considerations beyond just AI, but at least how AI would work with those considerations. So, can you speak a little bit about what you think about that?
AI, as everybody knows, is the buzz of the buzzes right now. We all want to talk about it a lot and speculate where it can help us, what it can do. AI has the ability to appear to do lots of things right now, and that's probably a good thing for a quality engineer to consider when it comes to risk assessment. If you consider maybe you were a student, let's say, and you went to an AI tool and you said, hey, can you produce my entire paper I need to write at the end of the semester? Like to produce words that might look like the paper, but they wouldn't necessarily be your work. And so would you really want it to represent you? And so as quality engineers, I think we need to consider that our work isn't about number of test cases and the appearance of numbers of test cases or a test plan. It's that we've strategically considered where do we want to have risk insights and what strategy experiments or tests do we want to perform to uncover those things.
That to me sounds spot on, but also very complicated. How do you get an organization right now that's so focused on the efficiencies that come from normal automation, but also by incorporating AI? How do you get them to embrace and understand what you're talking about and say, look, let's step back a second and let's focus on what's most important, and that's the whole risk side of things?
I think for the QA engineers, let's face it, a lot of QA engineers are sweating right now. They're like, is my job in jeopardy? If you're not thinking that, you're probably not in tune with what's going on. That's very common in our field. I believe you need to be communicating with your leaders and your management that you bring a special skill that while AI could maybe simulate to look like it, again, you as a human reason through the things that where you would want to provide additional insights and things like that. And as a human, we have this innate sense to identify risk just naturally. Especially QA engineers are very wired to identify. It begins to rub off on our families, by the way, if you haven't noticed that. We just have this innate sense to say something's not quite right here with an app. And we almost pick it up like an intuition to begin with. Something doesn't seem right here. And then we dig in further only to find out a functional defect there or a non-functional.
That's really interesting. So there's almost an instinctive, I don't know, pattern or recognition by being a QA human that someone that has that kind of QA background that they can better recognize what could cause risk.
Yes.
And maybe help address that.
Even process risk. This is another great example where contextually, if you think about even the things that you might encounter in a workday, and you see a process that's happening over and over again, and you realize the job is getting done, it just lacks efficiency. Or it produces this bottleneck that adds additional risk that wasn't there before. unless you have AI on 24/7, observing the world and consuming all of that, maybe not be able to pick that up. That doesn't mean that you don't feed that into a tool. You say, hey, I've identified this, and it can help put into words what you've discovered. And that's the sweet spot I'm finding more and more, Bob, as I'm working with these tools. Is I look at it almost like an exoskeleton or something with the suit of armor on, if you will. And it gives me this additional capability, but it doesn't replace the person inside.
I love that. It's a good analogy. So to me, you're also describing somewhat, it's almost like a framework. So if you're going to consider AI, and you need to consider all these other things. And so how would a company or an organization rather go about designing the right framework for their environment?
I love you.
And I know AI is pushing everything, but this is about how do you really fill in the gaps and consider all those other important pieces that come with a proper framework for an organization.
I think this is a great point.
Oh, thank you.
I like this idea of frameworks as a software architect and as an automation engineer. Of course, frameworks are the nuts and bolts that I'm always looking at so I'm not having to redevelop. But a thinking framework or an AI framework, I have one I built called MAI, and it's a whole series.
Excuse me, what MAI, not MIA? Okay, so not missing in action. Is this an abbreviation or is this a?
It's an abbreviation. It stands for Mission Awareness AI.
Okay, all right.
It came about maybe, I don't know, over a year ago. As I was using Copilot to begin with more and more, I realized that the tool was getting locked into doing certain things, but I wanted it to have a different persona, a different way of looking at the world. And so I just began to define some rules to the game, if you will, what gravity looked like in the world of risk assessment. That initial piece grew into, now it contains 7 files that are pretty extensive in a markdown format. And it's what I feed into my AI engine, so it has a strategy for how we're about to work and go forward in development and in risk assessment and other things like that.
So that is a part of the framework, or that is the framework, and is that kind of that's a tool? I get it, but it really reflects both process, procedures, mindset as you try to implement something like that within an organization.
It's a methodology.
Okay, I like that.
If you think about tools, if you think about, I'm using Claude a lot right now. In a couple of years from now, it could be whatever it is. It could change next week. The tools that we adopt are like another hammer. There's going to be, I can have a ball peen hammer, I can have a dead blow or whatever. There's various different kinds of hammers. But the way I wield that tool as a craftsman, the way I wield that tool makes a difference in the way I use it. And so my MAI framework doesn't really care what tool I've put it on, even with AI engine, doesn't really matter. It gives it a framework to work with and enables us to work in a consistent way that I need information so that I don't just get bombarded with a lot of what I call veneer quality, which is just a lot of noise that can appear to be good work, but actually just a lot of noise. Not good.
I think that makes sense. And to wrap it up, I think what I'm hearing is you don't want to just charge out there, grab some AI tools, try to implement them just for automation. You really need to consider the bigger picture, all the other components, whether it's people, process, methods, and to really do it right and focus on really ways to reduce risk. And if you can keep that mindset, then you should be in pretty good shape.
I hope that the quality leadership and the quality engineers do that. But I think this message is mostly for the executives and the C types, because the premise of veneer in anything is a lookalike. If you think about a veneer on a table, it might look like oak, but you and I know it's pressboard under there.
And I had a lot of those.
Quantity of tests, what look like test cases, or even a verbose test plan, could be nothing more than just a lot of noise that's scraped off of the web somewhere, and actually not what you need.
Not what you need for that particular environment.
You should be able to ask your test engineers about the details of it, and they shouldn't have to read it verbatim to tell you. It should be something they instigated as a
right. That's a great summary. I really appreciate this, Greg. We could go on forever. We're out of time, unfortunately. Next time you're in Dallas, we're going to do this again because we need to continue. You've got so much to share. Or maybe I just come to Nashville and we'll go hang out and do some. Oh, yeah, that'd be perfect. But I really appreciate it. Once again, this is Bob and Greg signing out today from wherever we are, at Haywire Restaurant in Plano, I think it is. And look forward to the next one. And thank you for watching. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Bob.